I have owned an R5c basically since it's been out, and over the years I have added so many accessories to it and removed even more, all in the hopes that I could create a awesome, high-functioning and versatile rig, with the goal being that I could transition between tripod to gimbal to shoulder rig and any other configuration that I wanted seamlessly without having to redo and de-rig everything. So with that, let's see what 4 years and thousands of dollars spent has allowed me to achieve. By the way, if you want to rig up your R5c exactly how I've rigged up mine with the exact same things I used, there is affiliate links down in the description, and maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to recoup some of the thousands of dollars I've spent rigging up this camera. Little spoiler alert also before we continue, it is predominantly small rig stuff, so if you have a specific brand preference or the items that I've listed are slightly out of your budget, feel free to look for something similar that fits your price range or brand preference. So with that being said, let's dive into the body of the camera, starting off with the heart of the whole rig, which is the small rig Black Mamba R5c cage. Now this not only gives us an extra layer of protection for the camera, but it also has way more mounting options, allowing us to rig more things and configure the camera in different ways. Now this cage did come with a top handle, but it uses the ARRI locating pin, and that takes a while to rig up because you have to screw it on and screw it off. So I swapped it out for another small rig top handle that uses and comes with a NATO rail. This allows me to easily rig it by just sliding it on and de-rigging it by sliding it off, and then I can tighten it to lock it in place. Still a very safe and reliable connection, but much easier to rig and de-rig. Now where I did want the ARRI styled connection was on my camera monitor mount that attached to the top handle. So I bought the small rig camera monitor mount that uses the ARRI locating pin. But I didn't want to be spending time screwing and unscrewing my monitor, so I needed another quick release system. So I decided to go with the small rig Hawk Lock systems. Now the monitor that I'm using on my camera is the Axion CineView M7 Pro. I have a whole video that I've discussed this monitor in great detail, so be sure to check it out if you're interested in this monitor. Now when it comes to powering this monitor, I personally like to keep it stupid simple. I just use a Sony NPF battery and directly power the monitor through the battery. But if you'd like to get a little bit more fancy, add a dummy battery, you are going to be able to do that with this rig, and I'll show you how a little bit later. Now the R5c has lots of different ports. It has time code, it has the ability to connect a microphone, headphones, USB-C, but it also has micro HDMI, which I'm not a big fan of. So to solve this issue, I got a micro HDMI to full HDMI converter from small rig, and I glued it onto the cage. Now I want to take a moment to quickly highlight another feature about the cage that I absolutely love, and that is the fact that it comes with a cable clamp. So I can secure my cables securely and have them not wiggle around, meaning that there's less likelihood of the ports getting damaged because the cables wiggled or they bent, because that's going to keep them nice and straight. Now when it comes to the filming, I use lots of different lenses, but all of my lenses have one thing in common, and that is that they use the small rig ring adapters to adapt whatever the filter thread size is for the lens to 95 millimeters, so I can attach the matte box. Now the matte box I use is the small rig mini matte box, and I really like this matte box for a few reasons. One, I can stack the filter trays so I can create different effects by combining different filters, which I absolutely love. Two, those ring adapters still allow me to thread in a circular filter if I'd like to use that for whatever reason, so I still have that option. Three, this mini matte box is incredibly lightweight and super durable. Like, I've had heavy things fall on this and I've had heavy things rest on this matte box. Nothing. Still basically looks good except for the tiny bits of scratches that are here and there. And then finally, because I'm using a matte box, my rig looks 10 times more professional, which means I can charge 10 times more the price. Right? Just kidding. Anyway, moving on to the base of the camera. Now this is where it gets really powerful. First of all, I'm using a small rig quick release plate. Now depending on how many different rig setups you want to be able to execute seamlessly, you're going to need that amount in quick release plates. Now I personally have two because I have a gimbal setup and then I have my handheld tripod setup. But if you wanted to go to a shoulder rig, you would just get a third one and attach this to the shoulder rig, and it would work the exact same way. So attach this quick release plate. For the tripod, I use a small rig base plate that allows me to have 15mm rods. Those 15mm rods are awesome because if you have a heavy lens, you can use it to attach a lens support so that your lens is supported and it doesn't rip off the mount. And then two, it allows me to add a V-mount holder. And this is the power unit for the whole rig because the battery life on the R5c isn't great. So this small rig VB99 is incredible. It has lots of different ports, which is why if you wanted to use a dummy battery, you can power that up through this battery. If you want to charge your camera through a dummy battery, you can use this small rig VB99 to power it up, and it is awesome. I can go through a whole day or almost a whole day on just one of these batteries. Now, aside from the small rig VB9, I also have an FX Lion, which is a much smaller one because when it comes to rigging this camera up on the gimbal, having a smaller battery means that the gimbal is easier to balance and I'm not putting so much load on the motors. Speaking of the gimbal, let's look at what that rig looks like. To attach the camera to the gimbal, I simply unlock the quick release plate and I attach it to the quick release base plate system for the gimbal, which is the Small Rig Universal LWS base plate. Now the Small Rig 15mm rods that I used in this setup, my handheld tripod setup, when you buy them, they actually come with two sizes, a standard size and then a smaller size, and then an adapter so that you can connect them if you needed a much longer rod for whatever reason. But because I didn't have that need, I took those small rods and I added them to my gimbal base plate. And the reason why is when I'm handhelding or I'm on a tripod, I can pull off the barrel, I can tap the lens if I'm using autofocus, but on a gimbal, you can't really do that without the gimbal freaking out. So I use a Tilton Nucleus Nano 2 to pull focus, and the rods allow me to attach the follow focus to the gimbal. Then underneath the gimbal, because I need to still power up the camera because the R5c doesn't have the greatest power life, I use that FX line using the Small Rig Gimbal V-plate connector, which connects to the bottom of the gimbal and allows me to connect the battery and power the camera. And then there's only one cable that runs directly from the camera to my handle, and that is my monitor HDMI cable. And that transition between the handheld tripod rig to the gimbal rig is incredibly seamless. And that is how I'm able to transition between my handheld tripod setup into my gimbal setup with ease. And these accessories and rig work so well that if any time I've rented or used a shoulder rig, I'm able to adjust and adapt it to the shoulder rig without needing anything extra, and it still works perfectly. With that being said, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, you know, all that funky, funny stuff. And once again, tiny friendly reminder, if you're interested in this rig or any specific piece of this rig for your own rig, links are in the description. It does help me out. I appreciate you if you do use it, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.